Hatred feels like something active. It feels purposeful. It feels personal. It feels like you're doing something meaningful just by holding on to it. However, that is the very same illusion that keeps hatred alive. Hatred does not travel outwards the way that it pretends to, the way that it tells you that it does. It never reaches the person that it's aimed at, and it doesn't do its work there, even though you think it is. What it does is it stays exactly where it was formed. It circulates within you internally, and the hated person continues eating, they continue sleeping, and they forget, they continue moving on with their life. However, the hater, the one who holds that malice in their heart, the one who intends to harm the other person, keeps returning to the exact same mental terrain. They replay the same moments. They rehearse the exact same arguments. They sharpen their blade, which never leaves their own body. It feels illogical. It feels irrational. Just to say these words out loud might have made some of you wake up to realize how stupid your hatred is. And that is the reason hatred exhausts people. And it isn't because hatred is intense, but simply because of the fact that it is repetitive. What it does require is maintenance, and you have to remember why you hate someone. You have to keep the story in your mind coherent, even if that involves making things up just to make you hate them even more. You have to revisit the wound and keep picking off the scab just so it doesn't close. And over time, the object of the hatred becomes irrelevant. It doesn't actually matter who you're hating. All that matters is the fact that the emotion sustains itself. It stops being so much about the person that you hate, and instead, it simply becomes a structure that your body is used to living inside of. The hated person does not feel the tightness in your chest. The hated person does not wake up with your jaw clenched. They do not lose sleep to the conversations that never actually happened or the scenarios that never actually played out. Hatred does not transmit pain across distance. What hatred does is turn the hater into the primary site of damage. It condenses the pain. People mistake this hatred for justice. They think that hatred is something proportional and that it balances something out. They got you, so you have to get them back now. But hatred balances absolutely nothing. Revenge doesn't do anything except keep that fire burning inside you in a bad way. It doesn't restore the past. It doesn't restore any sort of dignity, and it doesn't even preserve any sort of truth. It doesn't do any of those things. What it simply does is distort the memory until the hated figure becomes a symbol rather than an actual person, rather than someone to actually hate. And the hater becomes someone who cannot exit that loop without feeling like they're betraying themselves because they've been stuck in it for so long. And that is why hatred becomes a curse. And it isn't in a mystical sense, but instead in a mechanical sense. What hatred does is narrow your perception. It collapses attention around a single axis. All you're doing is looking forward. You forget to look at the past. You forget to look to your left, to your right, up, down. All you're doing is facing forwards, and everything gets filtered through that forwards movement. Neutral events feel charged. They feel like something impacting your life, even though they actually have no meaning. That person that you hate could do absolutely anything, and you'll continue hating them for some reason. The unrelated frustrations may attach themselves to the same target, even though, like I said, they're completely unrelated and irrelevant to that person. The world becomes a smaller place, and it becomes sharper, and it becomes less breathable and less understandable. And the cruel part is that the hatred convinces you that it is justified while it's doing this to you. It convinces you that letting go would mean excusing what that person did to you, or what happened, or what is going to happen in the future. That releasing the grip on that hatred would mean admitting that it didn't actually matter to you. So you continue holding on to it, not realizing that the grip itself is the punishment, and it is not the punishment for them, but simply the punishment for you. Imagine telling yourself that you're going to go into this ocean wearing a ball and chain that's going to continue dragging you down. But if you clip that ball and chain, if you take it off of you, you're just letting go of what could have been. You're allowing yourself to make the pain easier on yourself just because of the fact that you're too irrational to let go of it. It's an unfamiliar feeling to try and let go of that hatred just because your body has convinced you for so long that it is the root thing keeping you alive. And none of this requires any sort of forgiveness. You don't move on while hating anyone else. You orbit and you settle, and you don't actually heal. You rehearse the pain over and over. You force yourself to experience it every single time you relive those stories. And you don't protect yourself with hatred. What you do is keep yourself exposed to the same exact injury by refusing to let it settle in the past. The hated person does not need to harm you anymore. They've done their work, and the hatred takes over for their place. It takes over that role, and you put it in that role. It's so stupid when I lay it out in words like this. You are the one controlling the hatred, yet for some reason you still hold on to the pain that person gave you, and now put your own emotion in that role to make you feel even worse every single day. How fucking dumb is that? And none of it, like I said, none of it requires any sort of forgiveness or any familiarity to move on past. Forgiveness is an optional fact about it. Understanding is an optional thing to do. What isn't optional, however, is the cost that comes with hatred. Hatred charges you interest. Every single day that you hate that thing and that experience and that person more and more, it gets worse and worse. You feel worse and worse. You experience it worse. And it asks for more attention in your life. It asks for more energy. It asks for more space. It asks for everything. It takes everything away from you without escalating outwards. All it does is deepen inwards and make you hate yourself even more. It's just so stupid and bewildering to me that you can break it down this simply and people will still hold on to a grudge from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, just because of the fact that their body is telling them, this is the only thing that's kept us going. That is the simple reason why the curse of hatred doesn't land where you throw it. It doesn't land where you want to envision it. It doesn't tell you where it's going to go. What it does is land exactly where you started. It lands exactly upon the person who threw it. Hatred does not touch the one who is hated. What it does is pour onto the hater slowly and quietly enough that it can be mistaken for something which is, similar to strength, something which is similar to resilience or discipline in that sense. It can stay on them for so long and long enough to the point where it can be mistaken for their entire identity. It can override their life and exist retroactively through them. And by the time that you notice what the hatred is doing to you, it has already taught you how to live so much smaller than you actually need to.